people telling me that America's the greatest country because we can whip your ass?
I hate some of these people, but I'd never kill them.
How do you deal with this? You're never going to be able to unsee what you saw.
Try to impeach him. Just try it. You will have a spasm of violence in this country like you've never seen.
Governor Snyder, I got some Flint water for you.
When the operation of the machine becomes so odious, you've got to put your bodies upon the gears and upon the wheels, and you've got to make it stop.
If nobody's gonna do it, then I gotta do it.
And I don't give a who you are. I'll fight you in the damn street right now.
Okay, how the did this happen?
The American dream is dead.
This is Trinidad, the Island Man, your Island Man, coming to you live once again from beautiful Hawaii here on the island of Oahu, bringing you, yes you, the best movie reviews on the entire island of Oahu. And yes, this is Trinidad, the Island Man, your Island Man. And last night, I went ahead and I saw Friday night, the opening weekend premiere of Farenheit 11/9. Now, this is a Michael Moore directed film, written film, and produced film, all by Michael Moore. And basically, it is kind of a commentary on what led us up to the Trump presidency and kind of a general evaluation of how he is doing or has done up to this point, being, you know, nearly 2 years here in office. And, well, remember our rating scale, shock a thumbs up, it's good to see, I recommend it. Shock a thumbs down is junk, I don't recommend it. And for Farenheit 11/9 by Michael Moore, it is a shock a thumbs up. Now I know what you guys are saying, you know, and for the most part, it's true. If you like President Trump, then, you know, pretty much you'll hate this movie overall. If you, well, I'm sorry. And if you love President Trump, you'll hate this movie. If you hate President Trump, you'll pretty much love this movie. However, just like Michael Moore does with all his other films, everything from Bowling to Columbine to Sicko to, you know, Farenheit 9/11, Farenheit 11/9 pretty much, you know, gives you the facts. It presents you the facts. You know, the evidence is right there. And all sides, all parties are criticized no matter what side of the political line you might stand, Republican or Democrat. You know, no one is spared criticism from us reaching this point. Everything from, you know, the Obamas failing to rectify and pursue what many believe the proper course of action might have been with the Flint water crisis in Michigan, you know, with the lead in the water, how he did not send in FEMA to clean up the city. And in fact, in many ways, he made it worse. And by his inaction alone, seemed to back, you know, the poor governor, well, you know, the poorly ran governorship there. And, you know, where maybe Obama should have taken that governor out of office right there and then and put it in a state of emergency in Flint, Michigan. You know, and that is one of the factors that might have led us to the Trump presidency, as evidenced by, President Trump, as Michael Moore reports in this movie, he did win Michigan, a state that had voted and supported President Obama in both his terms and both elections. So why did Michigan suddenly turn Republican? Not so much that, the people who had supported Obama before had, turned against him and voted Republican. However, they just failed to show up and vote. That Obama's inaction to rectify the Flint, Michigan water crisis actually drove people away from the polls, and they decided to stay home. Feeling that their situation is hopeless. The man that they had supported in both elections failing to come in and save them the way that they thought. They got discouraged with the political system, as many of us have, as voter turnout and voting in the polls continue to decrease year after year, because we feel that our votes don't count. And thus, due to that lack of action, Hillary Clinton did not win the support she needed, and President Trump, by inaction, won. And, and of course, there were other factors such as the Electoral College, and Michael Moore points that out, that Hillary Clinton, of course, obviously won the popular vote, got the most votes, however, failed to secure all the electoral votes. And as educating as Mike Moore's films usually are, he brings out the point that, the Electoral College was a holdover from the slavery era, whereas it would give the southern states more power in our democracy for voting to make up for the urban city northern areas. And thus, time and time again, the popular vote, the majority vote, fails to win these elections due to the Electoral College. That, and again, on a microcosm of reasons Hillary Clinton did not win, was that the majority of Democrats did not support her going into the general election. During the primary, Michael Moore uncovers that Bernie Sanders, feel the burn, had actually won many of the states that the superdelegates for the Democratic National Party had actually, even though their constituents had won and said, we want Bernie, they, the individuals, turned around and voted completely different from what the people in their states wanted and voted to support Hillary Clinton for the general election, whereas the people wanted Bernie Sanders. And as Bernie Sanders will point out, the polls had him faring better in an election against Trump than Hillary Clinton. And we have seen the results of that. We are living with the results of that right now. So yes, don't go into this movie or don't stay away from this movie thinking that, oh, this is just a leftist, liberal kind of movie, and they're just going to focus on that, and it's going to be, oh, blank Trump this, blank Trump that, blah, 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 Trump, boo, 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 no, of course not. Michael Moore, as even President Trump in the past has praised his films, points out both sides of the story. There is stuff to like, there is stuff to hate, no matter what your political views are. And it definitely is an interesting and educational look at, you know, our democracy in the United States in general, and how over time since the 70s it has started to erode and fade away. You know, and again, as corporations continue to be able to spend unlimited amounts of money backing whoever they want, and those people with the money continue to gain footholds in political office, the smaller the individual, the people, and their votes seem to count less and less. Thus, you know, people are voting less and less nowadays, feeling it just doesn't matter. You know, it's not a perfect system, he points out. And I agree. But it's the only system that we have right now. And as I feel the general consensus is with this movie is to continue to try to move forward with it. Vote in the people that you want, the people that you want to see change the system from within, like the new senator, congresswoman from New York. Many of these younger, vibrant candidates who are winning elections, you know, want to buck the system, need to buck the system, and we should want to support them to buck this system, to drain the swamp, as Trump had put it. Like many Americans, especially in the Bible belts, you know, throughout America's heartland, farmlands, had supported Trump, you know, wanted that change because they saw the gridlock, the uneasiness in our political system, and they wanted something different. Well, you know, Democrats, the liberals, have to embrace that change and can't be like the Republicans were, you know, resistant to that change. You know, maybe fresh blood is what we need. And, you know, not the fresh blood of Trump, which, as we have seen, does not seem to be all that fresh after all. But it is up to us to maybe lift our candidates from our own positions, from, you know, where we live, so that they know to represent us as they have been with us all this time. You know, so yes, overall, a shock of thumbs up for this movie. Again, you know, in political classes and college courses, I am sure that this movie will do well, be on many curriculum listings, just to kind of take a look at. And, you know, definitely go ahead and check it out on Netflix, on streaming, if you can't go to the movies for it. It's not going to break any box office records. His movies never do. You know, it is a documentary, a retelling of events, and thus, you know, is not going to capture the people that it should. But, you know, if you're at all interested in politics and sociology, you should definitely go ahead and try to check out this movie when you can, however you can. You know, children are not, of course, going to like this, but maybe older teens, especially if they want change. They look at the children in Florida, the high school students that survived that mass shooting, and how that had energized them to go after, you know, Mark Rubio in Florida, you know, and other politicians on the local state government level, you know, to get them to change the gun laws there within their own state. If not, you know, if not President Trump himself to change things, then to change it on the state, city, and local level themselves, to push for that activism, that change, you know, to start small and to have it grow into a national movement. Again, you know, and he states, you know, Michael Moore also shows the labor unions under fire. shows how the teacher strike, you know, happened and took place and spread across the nation, you know, because teachers aren't even making minimum wage. How they had to strike and hold out for just a cost of living increase. You know, all of these things that should be, you know, natural and normal and just, you know, happen without a second thought, you know, people have to fight for. And basically, not only do we have to fight for our rights to vote nowadays, we have to fight to ensure that our votes count. You know, and that's what this movie ultimately, you know, regardless of what side of the spectrum you stand and who you represent, you know, that's the message it's telling you. And for that, I give it a strong shock of thumbs up for this movie. Educational, interesting look at the United States political system, and again, historically, what led us to the Trump presidency and what might happen in the future due to it. All right, thank you so much. This is Trinidad, the Island Man, your Island Man, going kind of deep dive in here on the artsy film for this weekend with Farenheit 11.9 getting a shock of thumbs up. All right, catch it when you can, especially if you're interested in politics. All right, thank you, and aloha.